This podcast is a collaboration between Costard and Touchstone Productions and the Dads from the Crypt podcast. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another installment of the How Not to Make a Movie podcast. I'm Alan Katz.
And I'm Gil Adler.
Today, we're going to talk about what makes an actor castable, what makes them believable, why do we cast the actors that we cast? Well, in particular, we're talking about one particular actor that you, Gil, have cast twice.
That's indeed right. Taye Diggs.
Taye Diggs. Now, in the interview that's about to come, we did not get around to talking about the second movie you cast him for, but the key is why you cast him a second time. The first movie that you hired Taye for was
House on Haunted Hill.
House on Haunted Hill. And then a couple of years later, you read a script, and the first actor you thought of for it was
Taye Diggs.
Why?
Good question. I think he's just very believable. And, we talked a little bit about actors who come out of theater and how you believe them sometimes more than you believe people who aren't trained in the theater. And it just seems to me that, when I saw him in the things that led up to me being interested in him as an actor, the plays that he had done in New York, and Stella Got a Crew Back, his first movie, I just felt like, he's somebody that I was interested in working with because I believed him.
Yeah. And what makes an actor believable? It's a very curious thing. It's not just necessarily the reading of the lines. As we look at each other, even through this horrible screen, there are all kinds of little visual clues that we take from each other's faces and the rest of our body language. And so what an actor projects, even when they're not speaking, sometimes, especially when they're not speaking.
Especially is right. And it really goes back to it. For me, it always goes back to, and I've said this a number of times on other times I've spoken, is emotionality of character.
Yeah.
By that, I mean, do I believe this character from an emotional point of view? Or are there just words coming out of his mouth or her mouth? Yeah. And with him, I always believed what he said.
Yeah.
I just always felt like he was telling me the truth. I cast Tony Shalhoub that way. I cast F. Murray Abraham that way because they are just wonderful actors. I believe them. Yeah. I look at their movies, I look at their plays, I look at their television, and whatever role they're playing, I just believe them.
Yeah, F. Murray Abraham is an incredibly believable character. I mean, when I think of even when he was playing Salieri, a character who really I have no emotional connection to. No, I mean, 1,000 years ago, in essence, and yet he made him so incredibly accessible.
Yeah. And everything he's done, as has with Taye Diggs as well. Yeah. Everything I've seen, I just believe.
Yeah, that is one of the most striking things about Taye's work. He is incredibly believable. Well, gosh, how does an actor do that? Here's Taye Diggs. You went to Syracuse. And
Syracuse University.
Syracuse University, and got your Master of Fine Arts in musical theater.
The BFA.
I'm sorry, the BFA. All right, I'll get this right eventually. So you had the BFA, excuse me, in musical theater. Now, were you? There's no nice way to put this. Were you a theatrical type before you went to Syracuse?
I was. I didn't know it yet. My mother had the foresight. She saw it early. I thought I was an athlete,
really?
But I was a little small, making the transition from junior high to high school. And because of that, I sat the bench, and I was kind of homely, kind of nerdy.
What were your sports? What were your sports?
I played soccer, tennis, and track. And it was track is when I realized that I was in a completely different atmosphere, solar system than some of these older, more developed kids. So it wasn't until I transferred to Rochester School of the Arts, and that's where I kind of found my tribe and was able to thrive.
Had you been in any plays before you went to Rochester?
No, no, I had been in one church play, sang in the gospel choir poorly, was had crazy, crazy stage fright. Um,
Huh.
but thankfully, at Rochester School of the Arts, they broke me of that, at least enough to enjoy performing, and I kind of found my calling.
How did they cure your stage fright?
I think it was just the repetition. You know what I mean? It was,
But the confidence that at least you had this down in your head.
sure, sure. Well, you take classes with the same students that you're performing with and for.
So you mean
So,
the repetition of, well, just the community.
sure, sure. Practicing in class and then doing it on stage. And it's just,
Yes,
I
yes,
think,
yes, 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 yes.
masters like Kobe Bryant will tell you, if you do something 15,000 times, it doesn't matter if you're nervous or not. It's just muscle memory. So it was that, because I still get scared today, but as long as I have enough rehearsal, it is like a muscle and you just let it do its thing.
Indeed.
Hmm.
Indeed. And when you get really good at it, you feed off that. You need
Sure.
that nervous energy. If you're not feeling it, that probably means you're not feeling it.
I mean, people say that, but there are a lot of times it's usually only when it's stage. I really wouldn't mind not having that, because it can get, it can really be distracting and take a
Fair
certain
enough.
amount of concentration to get through it.
Sure.
And there have been times when I've been so nervous that I've gone up on lines, or there was this one play. I was in a soldiers play off Broadway, New York City,
Sure.
and I think Denzel Washington was in the audience, and he was in the original, or the original movie, A
You
Soldier
knew he
Story.
was in the audience.
Yes, of course, of course.
Okay. So
And
it
I
took
had
you out of your head a little bit.
100 a lot. It took me out of my head a lot.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put me in my head, actually, too much in my head. And I had this
Sure,
beginning monologue.
You were sitting in the
Um,
audience next to Denzel watching you.
oh, I was in his head, judging
Oh
myself.
no, you were seeing your performance through his eyes.
Yes,
Oh, that's a
yeah,
lot of
yeah.
gymnastics inside your head while you're trying to act in a very good play.
Right, right. And I
Okay,
had this,
right.
like 5-page monologue, and I kind of tried to let my muscle memory take over. And before I knew it, I had started to repeat a certain part of the monologue,
No,
and I
no.
didn't realize it until, like, yeah. So I had
Gosh.
to, like, while I was. This is where actors, I really give it up to actors, because while I was in the middle of repeating it, I had to figure out where I had gone wrong and how to jump back to where I needed to be without, trying to not let the audience figure it out.
Mm.
But again, I got through it. But the great thing is that once you flub like that, the rest of the show is a piece of cake.
Surely,
Yeah,
surely.
yeah,
Oh, good. Oh, that's good to know.
yeah,
All right. So, you have it's an excellent experience for you at Rochester.
yeah, yeah. Rochester was cool. It was a big enough city, that there was stuff for me to do, but
Mhm.
not so big that I got in trouble. You know what I mean?
Sure.
We had a nice little out scene. We could go out as teenagers that wanted to chill out with the ladies.
Hmm.
They had a great theater scene with Jiva Theater and Nazareth and
Cool.
University of Rochester, and um, my mother. I have 4 brothers and sisters, and she raised us all. And then after a certain age, she went back to get her degrees in, thank you, in theater and dance. So she
Huh.
would drag us along to all of her rehearsals.
Had so she
And
before she had you all, she had been a performer.
no, no, she
No.
was a teacher.
Huh.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, in high school, I think she was on but what do you call it? The people that throw the batons around.
Oh,
She was a
Cheerleader.
cheerleader and
cheerleader.
a
Yeah.
majorette or something like that.
The pep
She did
squad. They
that.
used to call it.
and and she sang in church, but then she caught the bug. And I remember to this day watching her choreograph her audition for the dance portion. And I remember stealing parts of it for when I auditioned years later in for School of the Arts. Yeah.
Awesome.
So that's where I caught the bug. You know, I remember going to her rehearsals and just seeing all these really beautiful women, and you know, they were always laughing and joking around, and then literally watching her transform from being my mom to the characters that she played on stage. I remember one of the first plays she did was Charlotte's Web, and she was Charlotte. And that was one of my favorite books growing up, and watching her be Charlotte from Charlotte's Web was just great. Yeah.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah, very cool.
And then on to Syracuse.
And then
Syracuse. Now, when I first met Gil, you know, and I learned that he was from Syracuse, I went to Vassar. I was a drama major at Vassar.
Okay. Drama major as well.
I loved it. My college education was key to my evolution. In the drama department at Vassar, my whole experience there was seminal. But my dramatic literature professor was amazing. He was his name was Everett Sprinshore, one of the world authorities in Strindberg and Ibsen. And his lecture on Ibsen's Ghosts was it was just transcendent, because he completely, you know, we had read the play, all of us, and you know, we knew it, and then he breaks the whole thing down. He completely deconstructs it, and then he reconstructs it from just the emotional point of view. And when he gets to the ending, and Mrs. Alving, whose son Oswald is dying, is sitting there in his wheelchair, and she's behind him facing the audience, and the sun is setting, and he's saying, "Oh, mother, look, the sun is setting. It's beautiful, isn't it?" And behind him, he can't see her, but the audience can. She's dying as well as he is, because the sun is setting. It's a thunderous moment of theater, and I suddenly understood what storytelling is supposed to do, and what writing is supposed to do, what theater. Well, I'm still talking about it 40 some odd years later. So obviously it made an impression. So for me, my college education was 4 years of awesome. So then I meet this Gil Adler, becomes my partner for a decade. And, you know, one of the first things we talk about, hey, where'd you go to school? Of course, that's always the talk. And he says Syracuse. And his experience at Syracuse is not my experience at Vassar.
I hated it. The 4 years of my life that I would gladly give up, change in any way possible. It was the worst experience of my life. The only thing good that came out of it is I was living in the dorm, Sadler dorm, with the football players. And in those days, Larry Zonka and Floyd Little were the big football players. And I didn't know them, but I wanted to know them. I worked in the cafeteria. And
did you by any chance take a thorn out of anyone's paw one day?
No. They tackled me at the elevators one day inadvertently before a big game against Oregon State. And so the next thing I know, I'm lying in my bed in my room, and I'm looking up at Larry and Floyd, and I'm like, "Am I dreaming?" Because I know these guys are in the dorm. And they go, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" I go, "Yeah. Why?" Well, you know, you got off the elevator, and we were playing, you know, little football. Touch football wasn't so touch. Oh, it touched me, all right. So I became really good.
You got taken down by Larry Zonka
and Floyd Little.
And Floyd Little.
And lived to tell about it.
Well, the funny part was I became really good friends with them because I also worked in the cafeteria, and I controlled ice cream. And chocolate ice cream was a premium. And so I would tell people, "Nope, there's no chocolate ice cream," and I'd save it for my friends. So Larry and Floyd would come over, and they go, "Gil, you know we want." And I go, "Oh yeah, I got plenty of it.
I got the goods. You want
a 5-gallon drum? Just put it under your shirt."
You were the emperor of ice cream. Good God.
I went to Floyd's wedding.
Wow. Oh, okay. So you're not just talking. That's real stuff. Okay.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
That's great.
Long time ago.
That's cool.
But I hated
That's
Syracuse,
cool.
except for those guys. I hated Syracuse. I was studying something I hated, didn't want to take it. My parents wanted
What
me to take it.
what were
What
you
was it?
studying?
It was business and accounting.
Business and accounting. Yeah. Well,
So there were no women in my classes that I cared to know, and some of the men looked better to me than the women in those classes.
sure, sure.
And I was living in a men's dorm, working in a men's dorm, and I never saw women. I never, I was told this was a great school to meet girls and everything. I didn't meet
Yeah.
anybody.
That's awful.
Yeah.
That's awful. I'm so sorry because it was the exact opposite for me. I could not believe how amazing it was, and to not have to answer to my parents and
Mm,
to stay up as long as you want. And
mm.
it was awesome. It
So
was awesome.
what I would do is I would hide at Krause College, the School of Music.
Sure.
I would live in the practice rooms. I would, instead of doing my accounting homework, I would go into the piano room and I play the piano in the dark all night.
That's a movie right there. That's a
Yeah.
movie. You
Anyway,
should think about that.
I love Krause College to this day. When I
So
see the
great.
university, Krause College to me is the place.
It was so great. Yeah, and just walking by those rehearsal halls and hearing all the music, and it
Yeah.
was really great. Really, really great. I loved it. Yeah, I had a lot of classes that were there, voice classes.
Mhm.
It was awesome.
And
Awesome.
were you down at the theater department on Genesee as well?
Uh-huh. Yep.
Yeah.
We had to take that walk all the way
Yeah.
down the hill,
Yeah.
in that freezing cold weather, but
Oh yeah.
it was worth it. It was worth it for me just being around because as I said, my early college days, I didn't have much of a social life, and it wasn't until my early high school days, and it wasn't until later in high school that when I found my tribe of other actors and dancers and performers, and
Uh-huh.
then that just continued at Syracuse. So,
Sure.
that
That-
means so much being around other people
yeah.
that have the same interests. I took
Oh
that
yeah.
for granted.
It is one of the great things about being a drama. It's a whole culture unto itself. It is, the word tribe is exactly right.
Yeah.
And we recognize each other across the tribe I traveled with, but we are a collective tribe. We have There's a very similar sense of really of what we want from this world.
Yeah, yeah, and it didn't. In high school, in the beginning of high school, it was all about who had the most money and who the quarterback was and who the cheerleader, the main cheerleader was. But
Yeah.
when the arts entered my life, it was just about sharing these interests, and it wasn't even about how talented you were. It was just if you had a talent, you were allowed to kind of show your wares, and you were accepted, and that's what I'm very thankful for.
Now, when you were graduated from Syracuse,
Mhm.
within a year, you were on Broadway.
Yes, yeah. I don't know what now there's all this talk about manifesting and law of attraction, and I had no idea what that was when I was younger, but I knew somehow, I don't know if I was cocky or overconfident, but I just knew that I was going to make it. And, I moved to New York City because I was told, I wasn't told, I figured I had the best chance of working there because of a Broadway and because of the music theater. And, I was a song and dance man. So I like to sing. I like to dance.
Right
I like to
now,
sing, act, and dance. And
the song and dance thing, that all right, so you go from being an athlete but not able to compete as an
well,
athlete.
not an athlete, right? Athletic.
Yeah, okay.
Very athletic.
Athletic. Okay. I'm trying to give you. I'm trying to.
Yeah. I gotta
Okay.
keep it real.
We shared that too as well. That's not a, that's
Yes.
it was Syracuse and that capability. So.
Yeah.
Sure. Sure.
The song and dance is such a particular thing. There's acting, singing, dancing, but
Yeah.
the song and dance, that's a rather particular skill set to
That's the thing.
have.
Where it wasn't for me. Like where when I went to high school, we all did it. You know what I mean? I remember my best friend was an artist
You were at a
And
performing arts high school.
right,
Yes,
right,
yes,
right,
yes.
exactly.
So you, these were being cultivated.
Yes, yes. But I mean, people that were, I don't know what it was, if there was something in the water, but there was just talent all around. My
Huh.
best friend Shane Evans, I write children's books now, and he to this day he illustrates the children's books, and we write them together. And he was a fine artist, and I remember our senior year they were having auditions for West Side Story, and he auditioned for Tony. He's a fine artist, never was in a play, never
Yeah,
sang in choir,
yeah.
and he got the lead. He had a beautiful voice, and he got
Wow.
the lead. So it was that type of school where we
Yeah.
all did everything. So when I went to college, then I realized, oh, okay, I have a specific skill set here, and I might have a leg up on other people, which is why I decided to make that move
Hmm.
to New York City, and why I guess I had the confidence. My first job was at Pizzeria Uno as a host because I was too anxious. I had too much anxiety to be a waiter.
Oh, you're
And I remember, yeah,
funny.
I
Wow, that's
remember
funny.
I remember telling the other two hosts at the desk that I was gonna either get my own TV show, get a movie, or be on Broadway in a year. And 6 months later, I was in the cast of Carousel. So luckily I was right. I
It is
don't
good
know
when
who I
it works
thought I
out,
was.
isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, it's crazy.
Before you got Rent, you spent some time as a cast member in Disneyland Tokyo.
Yes, I did.
But that's bad. When I saw that, I thought, oh, I've got to know more about that. Please, what was that
Uh,
like?
I
Uh,
had done Carousel for a year.
yeah.
Um,
And
and
what role did you play in Carousel?
I was in the ensemble and I was the jigger understudy.
Oh,
Yeah. Uh, One of the best times of my life. Brian Darcy James was in that cast. James Barber was in that cast. Who else? A bunch of people that went on to do a lot of really great things. Um, and then a friend of mine that I had worked with came back from Japan with all this money and all these great stories and said, you should try it out. And I remember telling my agent at the time that I wanted to do that. And she said, this is a step backward. Like you've already been on Broadway. Everybody that works at these places are trying to get where you are. And I said, I just want to experience this. Everything will be here when I get back. I'm
mhm.
just as talented. I'll be fine. And she said, okay, I doubt it, but okay. And I went almost for like 9 months,
Huh.
came back with a bunch of money, great experiences. And as soon as I got back, um, I got Rent. So uh, once again, for whatever reason, I was on the right track.
Wow.
What aside from some money and the experience, was there any other takeaway from the time spent in
A
Tokyo?
Japanese girlfriend, that was awesome.
Okay. Yeah.
Speaking that I learned a good portion of the language, and just it
Cool.
was the first time I'd been out of the country outside of Canada. So
Huh.
just culturally speaking,
Oh, it's
my eyes were opened. Yeah.
it's a fascinating experience. I've been to Tokyo a couple of times. Uh, it must be what it's like to be completely illiterate because none of the
Yeah.
language means anything to you. It
Right. Right.
must well be Greek or Japanese. It's it's
It was
really
well.
yeah. Aside from the food, which is which is beautiful. The
Right.
plastic food, and there are no addresses. The whole address in Tokyo, the address system is really it's not how it's not a physical street address. It's
Yeah.
complicated. And so if you
Yeah.
had to go find someplace, oh my God, it's impossible.
Yeah. That's where the girlfriend came in
Oh my
handy. You know
God.
what I mean? Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
That's where that came in handy. But it was they have so many different. It's like they have different styles of the language. So the opening, when you're first learning, it's fairly easy. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
But then they have the way that you speak when you're working with other workers. Then they have the way that you speak if you're speaking to someone's parents. And then they have the way you work, the way you speak if you're, if you're making a certain amount of money. So on my base level, it was pretty easy just to communicate.
Mm-hmm.
But after that, then it got pretty difficult.
Boy, boy.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
but
Yes, yeah.
it was an amazing experience. It's something I'd never. I want to get back there. You know, it's been over 20 years,
Mm.
and I'm sure it's changed. But they were texting back then. It's when it came to their technology.
Mm.
They had cities where there were shops where Americans weren't allowed in because they wanted to keep what they had kind of top secret.
Mhm.
It was a trip. It was a trip over there.
Mm. All right. So, Rent.
Yeah.
You were in Rent for how long?
Well, maybe 2 years. I think 2 years. 2 years. Yeah. From off Broadway to Broadway, and then winning other Tonys, and then I
So that's
left.
so it's 2 years doing Rent, a year doing Carousel.
Yep,
That's
year
that
doing
that
carousel, a year
okay.
in Japan about, and then 2 years
But
doing
what I'm
rent.
going for is that that's a lot of singing the same song again and again and again. Does
Yeah.
but are there were there songs that you have to do again and again and again that never get old? And are there songs that do get old?
That show, it never did, because there was always something that came along that made the show fresh again. You
Hmm.
know, the music obviously was amazing, so we rode on that for the entire run. But we were off Broadway, and then we became a hit, so that gave us inspiration to if the music wasn't enough, Al Pacino was sitting in the on the floor in the aisles, because everyone had heard how great the show was, and then
Mhm.
selling out to these great houses, and then moving to Broadway. you know
You had clearly gotten over or had gotten better at dealing with the fact that a Denzel Washington was sitting in the audience.
sure, yeah, 100%, 100%.
Did you find
So,
yourself hoping that there were some some people out there that might give you? I mean, did that? What did that do to a performance, knowing that someone that you wanted to perhaps impress was out there?
oh well, we were spoiled. We were spoiled. It was my second Broadway show,
Mm,
and to be a hit,
mm,
and that kind of hit,
mm.
that was hitting people,
Monster.
on so many different levels. Very rarely can you be a part of something that is a trend for all the right reasons. So we were walking around like our shit didn't stink.
Mm.
And at the same time, trying to remain grounded, but trying to figure out what the next move was. Everybody was trying to figure out, where they wanted to sign with this record deal, and what TV show they were trying to do, or, the next play or the next gig. So that started to become a little distracting,
Mm.
I have to say, because we all knew this was kind of lightning in a bottle, and we were trying to figure out what was next. Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
You your first feature then was Stella Got Her Groove Back. How did that come about?
I me and Angela Bassett. I was performing in Rent in the evenings. I had gotten a gig on the daytime soap Guiding Light, so I was doing that in the day,
Mhm.
and I got the audition for How Still I Got a Groove Back. Excuse me. I remember reading the breakdown, and it said tall with dreads. And I had a shaved head, and I'm barely 5'9".
Mm.
So I figured I'd just go in and kind of leave a mark, and just let people know who I was, just because at that time, I was trying to do more stage and more TV and film.
Mhm.
So surprisingly, I got a call back. I nailed the call back, and then um Angela Bassett and myself, we had the same agent. Um, so my agent said, you should see this young kid. He's in this popular play called Rent. So apparently she went to see me. Angela Bassett went to see me in Rent, and wasn't impressed. But then she saw my work on the daytime soap and
She
thought, oh,
wasn't impressed with your work in Rent.
I mean, I don't know if that's, nothing, there were no bells and whistles, but it
Were,
wasn't until
were
she
you having
saw,
an off night?
I don't know, maybe so. But
Were
I
you,
will
were
say I
you, were
had the
you
smallest
repeating
role.
lines that having gone up in the that you were repeating? Oh
Maybe
well,
don't
okay,
know.
maybe she was having an off night. Let's put it that
Maybe.
way.
okay,
Nice.
all right.
Thank you. I like to remember it that way.
Yeah.
But I played this character, this record producer called Sugar Hill. Damien Sugar Hill. I can't believe I remember that on Guiding Light. And he
Yeah,
had, she could see more of the personality of someone with confidence and swagger. When it was on TV as opposed to stage. Sometimes, stuff
sure,
can get lost in between the stage and the audience.
sure.
But when you're watching something on a smaller screen,
Well,
she related to that character and brought me in for a screen test.
the thing about, all right, and talking as someone who has cast a lot of actors,
Right.
I've never cast an actor to act. Me personally, I've always wanted them just to be, and
Right.
to a degree, to be as honest emotionally as they possibly can be, using someone else's name and using dialogue that we're going to hand to them. But it's that who they are comes through that screen, little,
Right.
small, whichever, and it's a thing that you can act. And
Yeah,
it's
I guess. Yeah.
and so I'm the camera loves you.
Oh, okay. I hope so.
It is simply a fact that a lot of who you are, it simply flows through the lens and out into the wherever it's going to go. So
But one thing I've noticed through my career in terms of actors and working with them is that I have a predilection towards people who have a theater background. And that's probably because I have a theater background as well. But
Okay.
I also look at it and I go, those people are not afraid to invest in the emotionality of character. And to me, that comes across. And maybe sometimes if you're not sitting right in the real close in a theater, you don't catch it, but you will catch it
Right.
in close up. So
Right.
it just feels to me that the people who have had theater backgrounds seem to be able to nail it faster, quicker, get there quicker than maybe others who haven't.
Yeah. Same in my experience.
Yeah.
And there's a level of discipline and commitment.
Yeah.
Generally speaking, this is
Yeah.
saying
Yeah.
nothing of screen actors, but in my experience, there's it's a different. We come with a different set of tools.
Yeah.
So
And sometimes it takes a minute to calm us down and to kind of lower our voices and to rein it in energy wise. But once you get one of those actors that can monitor that, then I think then the sky's the limit.
Yeah.
So Ms. Bassett recognizes your tools.
Right.
This is a well-stocked tool shed.
Yeah. And
the
I
next thing she does is
she says, "Yeah, let's have them audition with two other gentlemen. A screen test. They don't do these much anymore, but it was like a chemistry test on screen that they filmed. And of all times to forget my lines, I remember this one scene, sitting across from Angela Bassett, holding her hand, and I couldn't remember how the scene began. And I remember looking at her, just smiling, and she just squeezed my hand, and I could tell through. She was telling me to just be okay, just relax.
Oh dear.
And I remember her squeezing my hand and kind of rubbing it, and then I was able to kind of fall back into my body and start, because I had to do the accent, and I wasn't very. How do I say this? I was confident when it came to my talents, but not confident as a human being.
Sure.
So,
sure.
once,
Sure.
once she
that was then. That was then.
Well, it's still, I'm still going to therapy for my self-esteem these days.
Well, hey,
Uh,
I'm also in therapy and issues, but
yeah,
it feels like you're doing great, man. Just one, you
yeah,
know,
yeah.
one guy who's wrestled with the very same things, and I feel it, and
Yeah,
I I
yeah,
I, I feel that struggle. God, I feel that struggle.
yeah,
Anyway,
yeah. I
sorry,
gotta,
sorry, sorry.
I gotta tell myself that most days.
You're
But
doing
yeah,
great, man. You're doing great.
thank you.
And hey, you were the whole reason that Stella got her groove back. And hey, it's in the script, but you still have to sell that.
Totally, totally. And thankfully, I've never had an issue doing that. When the audience is in front of me and then or that camera, it all comes out, and that's been a blessing. Yeah, it's never gotten in the way of bringing in the money, so I'm okay.
I have to confess, once I left the Crypt group, and they all went on to do the couple of horror movies, House on Haunted Hill among them.
Right.
Uh, I've never watched those movies, and I'm never going to watch those movies. So I will apologize that for this part of the conversation, I'm going to have to step back because it's personal. It's personal.
Well,
I got fired, so fuck everybody.
with House on Haunted Hill, to tell you the truth, I looked at the dailies and I agonized over the cut, et cetera, et cetera. But I don't watch the movies that I make after they're done.
Yeah.
I can't.
Right.
It brings up too many emotional events of what happened surrounding the day of shooting that nobody knows about, maybe never even happened on the set, but it was something that I had to deal with. That's just not where I want to go.
Sure.
Now,
I
So
get it.
haven't seen it since, but that's when we first worked together
Right.
on that movie, and Jeffrey Rush was in that movie, and
Yeah.
we had a
great
really
cast, great
really
Yeah.
great cast, and
Great cast.
it was a delightful experience. Ultimately, on a day-to-day
directed?
basis, probably would have felt differently.
Who directed?
Ooh, I forget.
Um,
Short guy. I think wasn't he from the Tales of the Crypt?
Oh,
Was it Bill
was it Bill?
Malone?
Was it Bill
Yep.
Malone? Oh, well, Bill's
Yeah.
a wonderful director.
100%.
Bill's great.
Yeah,
Oh,
Bill did a
okay.
great job.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It was
Sorry,
freaky.
Bill, that
Freaky
it
movie.
took these guys so long to remember your name.
I just wanted to make sure that I wasn't quoting another director for his credit.
But okay, so you got an award. You got a Blockbuster award for your work on House on Haunted Hill.
I forgot about that.
Didn't you?
Okay.
Yeah. It says so. So you must have. So hey, it must have something in being there must have brought something special to it. What's the story about? I'm
Oh
gonna
my goodness.
I'm gonna speak for all the members of the audience who have never seen this.
Oh
this
my Lord.
movie.
I'm gonna need your help, Gil. Yeah.
Okay,
It's a
go ahead.
remake. It's a
Yep.
remake, right? Vincent Price was in the original.
Right. It's a remake
William
of
Castle.
a Castle movie. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Right, right. And there are a bunch of people get invited to a haunted house for some kind of a party.
What they think is a party they have an opportunity to win $1 million. And
right.
and
right.
then things go awry. And if you want to see
Right,
more,
right.
you want to know more about that movie, go rent so we can make some money. Yeah, but I mean, it's scary and it's fun and it's William Castle and it's Tales from the Crypt-ish.
Yeah, very much so. And it was number one that weekend.
Yeah, it really
I
was.
remember. Yeah. Yep, I remember.
Where did you make this movie?
Santa Clarita.
Santa Clarita. Yeah.
Downtown Santa Clarita. I had to schlep out there every day.
Yes. I remember my partner in crime was Ali Larder. We were like the young people.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. And then Chris Kattan was running around making everybody laugh.
Right.
And Famke. Yeah, I remember it was I think that was my first movie with stars of that caliber, I think. Yeah, it was a huge deal for me. I'd never worked with, the likes of a Jeffrey Rush or Famke so that was a big deal.
Angela, come
after
on.
Angela, excuse me.
Angela,
yes,
I mean, she's.
Excuse me, you're absolutely right. Yeah, I'm spoiled. Yeah, I
Angela,
forgot.
I apologize for the good God, who are these people?
My bad. She was um so humble, and yeah, it was as if she were family.
Mm,
Um
mm.
yeah, you're right. Yeah. Boy,
No,
Sean,
no, no.
bring
But
Sean
but but
back.
but but you had I mean, Jeffrey Rush, Academy
Sure.
Award winner.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah.
He's
I did not
impressive.
have a bad go of it. Yeah, it was I had a ball. I had a ball. Yeah.
Uh, yeah, I've never heard anything from that set that was terribly unhappy. You know, Bill's a lovely director and a
Sure.
lovely human being. So, like I said, I've got nothing else to say about that movie. I got fired, so screw y'all.
I have a lot to say about that movie, but not for this interview.
Not for this.
You are a two-time winner of the lip sync battle show.
All right.
These are just
Right.
when I found out these things about you, because having never met you before, these were just fascinating things that yeah, acting schmacting. Tell me about the lip sync battle.
Oh man. Well, that's one of those shows where you watch it and you're having so much fun that you call them and ask if you can be on
Huh.
it. And I did so, and I wanted to make a splash and try to do something that I didn't think anybody else had done yet. So yeah, I did the though I did first one was Madonna, Vogue, and I think I performed against Neo.
Hmm.
And then the second one was like a tribute to Christina Aguilera. Yeah,
That is
yeah.
that's
So
hilarious. Okay.
it was fun. I mean, it was a great experience. One of those, actors always kind of want to be singers, and athletes want to be singers and whatnot. And it was
Where
able, we were able to kind of reverse roles for a bit. So I
where
was
does
able
that
to.
award sit in your house?
Ooh,
I'll tell you where. Right next to his award for House on Haunted Hill, which you can't remember where it is. Getting.
The Blockbuster Award. Yeah, yes, I should ask. But first and foremost, where does that Blockbuster Award sit?
I have no idea.
Oh no.
I gotta
Oh
find
no.
it. I gotta find. I think it's in the walk-in closet. I think. Yeah, it would used to be my son's room, and then I moved him to a bigger room, and now it's the guest room that's also a closet. So I think it's on the shelf there. It
What's
is actually. It's a microphone,
huh?
a
Oh,
belt. No,
of
I forget.
course. What
It's a
what is
microphone.
your
Yeah.
what's your secret? What's the difference between good lip syncing and great lip syncing?
Oh, I have no
An
idea.
award winning lip syncing.
I don't think it was the lip syncing. I think it was the dressing and drag. I think that's what got it.
I was gonna say when I think of somebody lip syncing Christina Aguilera, I immediately think of you.
It's the blonde wig and red lips with the stubble. That's what did it.
And what did you wear? Sorry, couldn't
Oh
resist.
man, I gotta say, I've been around. I've done some things. It's been okay. It's been
What
okay.
what is undone in front of you? What as you think of kind of things you would love to mountains still to climb?
Producing now. I feel like I've finally gotten enough muxy to invest in myself, and
Mhm.
I've got a really great partner, Shannon Stokey, and we're producing. We're stepping into the reality world, non-scripted as they call it, and then yeah, to be able to get to that place where you hear it all the time, but well, comedy. I really when it comes to the acting,
Mhm.
this whole social media craze has kind of awakened my realization of I just like to be silly, and the few comedies that I've done, going to work every day and laughing all day every day is just a really great experience, and it makes the time go way quicker.
Hmm.
I enjoy what I'm doing more. So whenever this gig ends, I'm currently on All American,
Right.
CW right now, but whenever that stops, I'm definitely gonna look towards the the comedy scene.
Mm-hmm. As well you should. So
That's great.
yeah, there's I
Sort of
can't
an Alan.
imagine the
Let me try to explain a little bit. It's sort of analogous, Alan, for you and me in blood and guts and gore. That's how he feels about comedy.
yeah. It seems such a natural. It's as natural as all the rest of your theatricality. It's
Well, I enjoy it the most, I gotta say,
yeah,
and it
yeah,
took
no,
me a minute to realize it, but I enjoy it the most.
we always looked at Tales from the Crypt as black comedy first and foremost, horror.
Sure.
In fact, when I arrived in Los Angeles 1,000 years ago, I I was here to do comedy. I was not a horror person in any way, shape, or
Ah,
form. To me, it was comedy, and the first script Gil and I met a script that I'd written was a comedy,
Yeah.
right, right,
and
right.
and the first things that we ever developed together was a comedy. The first thing we ever wrote together was a comedy.
And when I first started out, I produced a play off Broadway called El Grande de Coca-Cola, which was a comedy. And I was
A great
constantly
comedy.
asking Joe Papp and Bernie Gersten for a job for like 10 years and doing anything and just wouldn't, they kept saying, you're going to be a producer and you'll leave. So we don't want to give you a job. And I would say, but if you don't like me, just say you don't like me and throw me out. Okay. Just don't
Yeah,
bullshit. And they would say, no, this isn't bullshit. This is what's going to happen.
I love it.
We started out in comedy and always felt, that the Tales from the Crypt, even though especially the ones we wrote, we were always looking for the humor.
Yes, I think 100%. I mean, I think those two they go hand in hand, right?
They do.
Horror and comedy. That's always whether it's
Claw
tongue
and
in cheek
claw.
or just straight out obvious laughter. Yeah.
Yeah. So comedy. You've done comedy. My God, dude, comedy should be the next mountain peak you not just climb but master. I mean,
Certainly hope so, because
yeah,
I
yeah.
really love it. I really
No,
love
I
it.
mean, just having never met you and just having had this lovely conversation with you, my God, I'm tempted to write something for you.
Okay, then it'll be a different kind of black comedy, right?
Hey, we have to experience it all. And it's funny. One of the challenging things these days is how do we write in other people's voices
Yeah,
authentically? It's more of a challenge now because there is the risk of not just being inauthentic but really looking inauthentic in horrible ways.
yeah. That's it's an interesting conversation because
Yeah.
as an actor, we there's a certain amount of ego that comes with any actor that is worth their weight in salt, where we think we can do anything. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of times, especially when it comes to the way certain African American literature or culture is looked upon, it can be very specific and discussions of authenticity and whatnot. It's all understood, but there also for me is something to be said for being able to take anybody's writing and make it your own. You know what I mean? And put something on it that makes it authentic to you, no matter what your cultural background may be. And that's a part of this business that I've also really grown to love.
Mm-hmm.
What I love about House on Haunted Hill, and one of the main reasons why I jumped to do it, was that my character, I don't think, was written black. And I love the fact that in that day and age, it was like you either did black movies or you were the black guy in a white movie.
Yeah.
And I love the fact that this was just a young man, and they, whoever, thanks to Gil and whoever cast it, they saw me, and I made that character my own. You know what I mean? I don't think anybody would look at that and say the character was whitewashed or that character was inauthentic to the African American culture. But I just did what I did, and luckily, the powers that be trusted me, and we that character was what it was. So it's
I can
all
I can
go
add
ahead. I'm sorry.
I can add a little bit to that because when you came in to audition for that, I think, or we talked to your management about it.
Right.
You're right. When it was originally written, it wasn't written for a black fella, or
Right.
it wasn't written for anybody. It was written just as a character.
Right.
And in those days, mainly those characters were white. And so when we came across you, we really dug you.
Yeah.
And the color issue had nothing to do with it. We just thought, here's a really good actor.
Yeah.
He really, represents the part. He's the right age, and why not? And so it's so unlike kind of the thinking that goes through between then and now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's almost in a way naive, but also honest.
Yes.
And sometimes you don't get either of those today.
Exactly. It's either too overthought or not thought of at all.
Yeah.
And obviously these are the the growing pains that we have to go through just in society today. But yeah, I do. Yeah, there were times when every once in a while when I do long for those days when it was just the best guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, really and truly, the way that casting has opened up is terrific. When I think of the argument of, but how can you cast a black actor in a white role? Well, all right, so the actor's race actually is not. There are bigger differences that we we're willing to overlook in a white actor that are far, like, especially in English characters, when they get the accent wrong. Well, that's class and
sure.
That you're so off the mark because you're getting the accent wrong. Never mind the race. That's
right.
If an actor of color can nail everything else about the role, then what does the race got to do with anything? Can't we look? That's not relevant. That's not relevant. It's like the wardrobe.
Yeah.
Really and truly. But the fact that we're finally beginning to understand this is not a difference of any validity between anybody, for fuck's sake. My God, but this is what we all do here in the arts. We're the canaries in the coal mine, but we're also, the ones who are going to force the culture ahead.
Sure.
Through our storytelling and through our, because we do this as a community already.
Right.
And we're
figuring
this out.
Sure. Yeah, it's a lot, and I'm proud of it. I'm proud that that's what we are.
We could go on and on and on, and I hope you'll come back and we'll get to do it on.
Sure, this has been great.
Another time and talk about everything else that you're doing.
There's so much more. Thank you very much. I've had a great time.
I'm really
good to see you again, Gil.
I'm really glad you had. And next time we will not talk at all about Syracuse. We'll just forget about it, and we'll continue on. As always, Taye, a pleasure and a delight, and I love you, man.
Absolutely. I'll see you soon, I hope.
Okay. Take care.
All right, fellas.
Thank you again.
Take care.
Thank you, everybody. We'll see you soon. The How Not to Make a Movie podcast is executive produced by me, Alan Katz, by Gil Adler, and by Jason Stein. Our artwork was done by the amazing Jody Webster, and Jason Jody, along with Mando, are all the hosts of the fun and informative Dads from the Crypt podcast. Follow them for what my old pal the Crypt Keeper would have called terrific crypt content.